Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host, Diane. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host, Diane.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane. I don't have to tell you, you know, life is busy, life is hectic. I'm just happy you're able to sit down for a minute and watch this program. But we know everything involved in our life, the stresses, it's just overwhelming. It can be overwhelming, but still it's important that our voice is heard in our government, locally, statewide, and of course in Washington, D.C. So it's important that we do vote, and we know there's a big election coming right around the corner on Tuesday, November 8th here in our state and across the country. Voting is not just a privilege, it's a right, and a right that we need to be taking because we pay our tax dollars pay for our government, and we should have a voice in that. So we do our effort, we vote. But then we wonder, is our vote counting? Did somebody actually register my vote? Who doesn't sometimes kind of wonder that? You kind of wonder, you take the ticket saying, well, I was number 1,562, but is your vote really in that machine? Is it really being counted? Well, on the show today, we're going to talk about a national effort that is here actually locally here in New Mexico as well. It's called Election Integrity Network. It's a coalition that's across the country, but also there's an organization called Who's Counting? That's a good name. Who's counting it? So we're going to find out more about that from Anise Morper. She is the executive director of the coalition here in the state, and she's going to tell us why do we have such a coalition and what do they mean by who's counting? So please stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
The National Education Association of New Mexico, a union of teachers and school staff, believes every child deserves to learn at a school that inspires their imagination, cultivates their curiosity, and ensures a fulfilling life. Public schools should provide all our students with small class sizes and one-on-one attention. NEA New Mexico asks you to join us so together we can end the teacher and staff shortage and invest in our public education system once and for all. Sponsored by NEA New Mexico.
Having confidence in our election process, that's probably on a lot of people's minds, and it has been in the past, and it could be in the future, but there could be hope, giving you some confidence that who's counting, your vote, your ballot's being counted. And maybe, tell me if I'm wrong, but I know when I go to vote, it's like, I just hope it's there. I hope it's there. And maybe Anise will tell us a little bit about the organization, or you certainly will tell us about the organization, Who's Counting, and the Integrity Election Integrity Network. Anise Morper, thank you so much for making the big drive from Angel Fire, New Mexico to come to here to Albuquerque to our studios. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And you know, do you get a ticket? Do you get a receipt? Well, a lot of times you'll get a little sticky that says I voted, that you get to stick somewhere. It's just like, okay, and where did my vote go?
Where does it go? Truly, where does it go? Because I go to the, and people are voting in person. They're early voting. They're voting by early voting ballots, or they can go in person early or on election day. But I just see the number, you're 1,562. Okay, but it goes into a machine. But then where does it go?
Well, the machines are supposed to be counting our votes and going through them. There's a lot of discussion on the machines, but the big thing is, between now and Election Day, we're not going to be able to get rid of those machines. So we need to take proactive steps of what we can do to secure our vote. You know, the U.S. Post Office is the largest place that a lot of our ballots go. And yet, what's happening to them? Are they really being processed? What's happening to those votes that are being mailed in? And what's happening to the ballots that get returned and never got delivered? Are those names being taken off the list, or are they staying on the list? Why were they returned? We had a couple of instances, one at the university, where there was one specific location that had a whole bunch of ballots being sent to it. Well, what was happening is these people had been to UNM, had stayed there at the dorm years ago, but it was cumulative, and they kept on sending to all the people that had been there in the past years.
Sending them what? Sending them ballots? Sending them actual ballots?
So another thing that we need to worry about is we need to worry about what's going on with those ballots at the post office. However, if you're voting in person, you don't need to worry about that. So it's very valuable to vote the first day that they open, and the county clerks will be opening on the 11th, which is a Tuesday.
October 11th.
October
And the show
11th.
may be airing after that as
Yes.
well.
And so you can walk into the county clerks and vote there. That's what I have done for years, is that first day, because I'm so busy. We're all so busy. As you were saying, we have a busy life. Life happens. So get in there, vote the first day, and be done with it, and know that your vote, when you voted in person, is there. What happened to my niece down in Las Cruces? She was going to the university down there, studying on her master's degree. And she went to vote a couple of years ago on election day because she was told, vote only on election day. That's it, nothing else. When she did go there to vote, she was told that she had already voted. She said, no, I didn't. They said, oh yeah, you just don't remember. She said, I'm working on my master's degree. I would remember if I voted. Of course, they offered her a provisionary, but where does that go? Since we don't have ID and we don't have signature verification, they're going to verify hers against somebody else's and which one's accurate. Vote day one, in person.
Who is recommending this, Anise?
Who's counting? Cleta Mitchell, who was an attorney, she's still an attorney, but was an attorney for Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. But she has created this organization called Who's Counting, and you can go to the website, who'scounting.us, to see all of the different videos she has created about voting. Why is it important to vote early? What's going on at the USPS, our machines, just absentee ballots, UCAVA, which has to do with our military overseas. So she has created a bunch of different short videos that are really easy to listen to and watch.
And with that, what's the relationship between Who's Counting.us and the coalition here and stationed here in New Mexico, you as the representative of Election Integrity Network?
Who's Counting is actually the Election Integrity Network that is in DC, and they reached out to me and said, hey, we need you to create a coalition, call it New Mexico Election Integrity Coalition, pretty simple, and let's do whatever we can to change New Mexico to make sure that our votes are legally cast and counted.
So it's the parent organization is Who's Counting, and the network, Election Integrity Network, is under that umbrella.
It's the nonprofit. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So when I asked who's saying this, it's Who's Counting says the best day is the first day of voting at the county clerk. It tend to be a county clerk, but there's also other locations that open a little bit after that, early
Yes, there
voting
is.
sites.
Yes, yes, but vote in person. The first day you have an opportunity, go get it done.
Why is that so good, Anise?
Your vote cannot be stolen. You can't go show up like it happened to my niece. You cannot show up there to cast your ballot and somebody else voted on your behalf without your knowledge or your approval or anything else. So that's very important to get that done.
Okay, very good. If you can't go the first day, and this may see this advice after the first day, then what should you do?
Second day. That's what you need to do. Be sure and vote in person. We don't need to have our ballots sitting at the post office. And we have hardworking people at the post office, but let me tell you a story of what happened. My brother and I, we live in the same state. He sent me a Christmas card one year about the 13th or 14th of December. I received it, and of course it had a first-class stamp on it. I received it in June the following year. I don't want that happening to your ballot or anybody else's ballot. Vote in person.
So it is convenient getting the ballots in the mail and mailing it in, but
Yeah.
you're suggesting that you go in person.
Yes, ma'am.
What can happen in person, though? It registers, you get a little ticket, in addition to the little sticker saying, I voted.
Yes. Cute sticker. Well, what we need to do is we need to be sure that the people that are working there have our best interest in front of them, not theirs. We need to be sure that we have poll workers. We need to be sure we have poll challengers. And you have to be signed up through your party, whichever party you're affiliated with. They assign you and give your name in to the county clerk or the Secretary of State. So in
Tell us how that process works.
Sure.
It's not just election day, but early voting. We
Yes.
have the poll workers who go through training, and they're paid by our tax dollars to be a poll worker.
Yes.
To take your name. They don't look at an ID because we don't require ID in the state, but you write down that you're voting. They give you your ballot. You vote. Those are poll workers, receive training, and little bit probably above minimum wage.
So we have the ones that are paid and the ones that are volunteer. The ones that are paid are your poll workers and judges. The ones that are volunteered are the ones that are your challengers and watchers.
Okay, so
Okay.
tell me, let's talk about the challengers and watchers.
Challengers and watchers are volunteer. Typically, you go to some sort of a training to know what you're looking for.
And your organization is offering?
We're offering some training, yes.
Okay, well, let's go through that workshop really quick and then go back to what the difference is
Okay.
between the watchers and where else they get training. So I know in Albuquerque, October 4th, in Santa Fe, October 5th, Las Cruces, October 6th, Rio Rancho, October 15th are important dates, and all parties. It's not just one particular party.
Oh, we're nonprofit, nonpartisan. So
Nonpartisan is the
nonpartisan,
key.
nonprofit, and this is education. So this is what's important, that we educate the people on what they're supposed to do and what are the rules. So if you're a challenger, what can you do? Well, as a challenger...
And how do you become a challenger? First, let's say, how
Sure.
can you become a challenger? Can I just walk in and say, this doesn't look right?
Well, first, what
This
you need
line
to
is
do...
way too long. No, what is a challenger and how do you become a challenger?
Well, what you need to do to become a challenger is go through some instruction, and then that list goes of whoever went through the instruction will go to the party chairman. If you're a Republican, it goes to the Republican chairman of your county, Democrat, Libertarian, whatever that is, it goes to that county chairman. And then it's up to them to submit the names to the county clerk on that.
So, who is offering the training?
Who's counting? Election Integrity Network and New Mexico Election Integrity Coalition.
You're offering your training, but before you existed, there was training
Yes,
previously.
many counties did their own training. Many county parties did their own training. But
County
there's-
parties did their training.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we're nonpartisan, so we're just offering it to everybody so everybody gets the same information.
So if they want to become a challenger, but if they're a Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
they may get the training from their Democratic Party, from the chair of their county has set up different times and dates, right?
That's true for
to
each
get
party.
challenging.
Yes.
They contact their party chair, that's one way
Mm-hmm.
to get it, or they attend one through who's counting, and that's nonpartisan. So if it's nonpartisan, who do you direct the names to after they receive the training?
To the county chairs. So those names goes back over to the county chairs, whichever party it is.
Okay, so if I'm a Democrat, or Republican, or Libertarian,
Yes.
I contact who's counting.
You can contact me at my email and I can help you get into this class. And our
Okay.
classes also offer local training for the local laws. So we make sure to cover both.
Okay, so they contact you, and we have anise.golden@gmail.com, and you can
Yes,
let
ma'am.
them know. But what they'll be doing at these workshops, after they've completed this, you will submit their names to the Democratic Party, the
Yes.
Libertarian, or the Republican, that they have become a challenger. And as a challenger, what are they going to do election day?
We have a watcher and a challenger. A watcher just observes what's going on, and they can notify either the challenger or somebody else of what's going on. They can't touch anything, they can't say anything, they just observe.
And that's in the training too, to become a watcher.
Yes,
Their
yes.
name has to be submitted, though, obviously.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so the same thing with the challenger, but the challenger can ask questions, say, of the poll judge. You know, we saw that that ballot was misprinted, what happened to it? Or just they can discuss things that are going on about what doesn't seem right there. And of course, if they're not getting the right answers to their questions or answers that are fitting, then they can contact an attorney, which each party should have their own attorneys ready so they can have a resource to reach out to. And those are volunteer. Your challengers and your watchers are volunteer, but we also have workers that will be signing up to work at the party, and those are the ones that check you in. They'll check your name, they'll make sure.
Well, you said
that-
work at the party, you mean work at election?
work at the poll, yes.
Yes, and those are the ones paid by tax dollars?
Yes.
And they,
The
I believe,
workers.
contact the Secretary of State or their county clerks
County
to become.
clerks.
And I see the advertisements, they're looking for people this year to
and
become
yeah, and what we want
workers.
is we want a balance. We want both parties there at the same time.
Or all three parties,
Or
Libertarian.
right, all three parties there, thank you, at the same time. So they're all represented.
Very good. What types of things you discuss laws in this training, but I would like to know what types of things are they going to be kind of looking for or challenging? Give me some examples.
Well, an example
that's actually happened that you know of.
Sure. There's an example of, say, somebody grabs their ballot and they mismark it. They want a new ballot. So what are they going to do with that ballot? Are they going to rip it? Are they going to mark it? It has to go according to the law of what you do with it.
Oftentimes it's in a machine, though, and you mark it in the machine. So you really you're not marking it with a pen.
Sometimes. Now, this most recent election at the primary, there were counties that were using the paper ballots, and you mark them, and then you put it in the machine. So yeah, they're still marking them with a pen.
Okay, so in the case they mismark it.
Right.
So a challenger would watch this process?
Yes.
What's supposed to happen?
Well, it depends on the location and the New Mexico state laws. So I have people that will be training on the New Mexico specific state law of what to do with that ballot. But here's another thing that we have had happen just recently. There are counties, 2 specific counties, that are requiring the workers to be vaccinated. The other counties are not requiring that. Well, what that does is it provides an imbalance of workers. The workers that will be vaccinated versus workers that won't be vaccinated. They're not allowed to work. They're not allowed to be there in 2 specific counties, which is Doña Ana and Santa Fe County. So that's something also that we need to address.
Now, this day and age.
Yes, ma'am.
This election.
Yes, ma'am.
They're not allowed to be a poll worker.
Poll worker.
If they're not vaccinated.
In 2 counties, yes.
But
So
do we have the
challenging
executive
that.
order still in place that you need to be vaccinated to work to be in a public place? I don't think so.
Well, and here's the thing. Didn't President Biden just say we're no longer under a pandemic? So what's up?
So what is your organization doing about that?
We just reached out to attorneys because we just found out about it last week. We're reaching out to attorneys to address it.
Okay. We talked about the mismatched ballot, mismarked ballot.
Yes.
What happens to that ballot? What other incidences are these people going to be trained at these workshops to look for?
Well, process. Did everything follow the right process? Is somebody helping somebody else to vote? Are they, did they bring in their sister to help them to vote or their friend to help them to vote? You're not supposed to be doing that. Now, there are certain provisions for vulnerable voters, and if they need assistance, there's different provisions for that. But you can't just come in and, let's say, have your granddaughter help you to vote. You can't just generally do that.
So a challenger would look at this situation and say what?
Well, they would go to the judge and say, it appears that they're not voting themselves, they have somebody else voting in their stead.
Okay. Give me some other examples. For this whole organization to be in existence, there must be more than these cases.
There is, and it's not just about the polls, it's about, there's so many different things that are going on. We need to be sure that everything is working properly. On the machines, do they have the right count? Did the count continue? On the absentee ballots, when they've put them in, or the early voting, when they put them in, did they put the machines aside and put new machines in for election day? If so, were those zeroed out? And what happens to those? All these ballots that are collected, what about the drop boxes? We really don't even need those. Those were in because of the pandemic. We don't need those drop boxes anymore. Why do we, and who's watching them?
When do the absentee votes, are they put into the machines? Is that in public or is that in the back room? Where does that happen in Anise?
Well, it's in a back room, but that's where we need the poll workers and the poll challengers and watchers to watch those, make sure those are done as well properly. We need to be sure the whole process is smooth, and we need to make sure that it's all legally being done. And things that are being done legally but are not making sense, such as some of these machines, if they're not making sense, if they're allowed to do things that are not right, I'm not saying that they are. I don't know that. I'm not a technician. But if they are, we need to make sure they're right. And there's human error involved in all of this, as there has been for hundreds of years when you vote. It's not anything new. So I also believe that we need to get very strict on our fraud laws, our election fraud laws, and deter people from trying to cheat.
Deter that.
Yes.
Yes. If they get caught and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born and raised in this state. I've been here all my life, and I love this state. But I also know that there are things that aren't right that are being shoved down our throats. I I was a candidate at one time, and I was told that my petitions were not valid. They were valid, but they wanted me off the ballot. So the Secretary of State took me off, and I sued her. When I sued her, we went to the lower court first. When we went to the lower court, the justice said, well, I'm afraid to rule against her because she's a block away. Well, I'm sorry, proximity doesn't have anything to do with my constitutional rights, the right to petition the government. So I took it to the Supreme Court. In the Supreme Court, I won 4-1. Created case law that has not only been used here in this state, but has been used across the United States. But you know, we have a right to petition the government. We are the people. We are the ones that are hiring them and firing them. We need to have everything according to the way we want it. It's we the people, not them the government.
Tell me a little bit more about your case. You were told your petitions were not correct. What was wrong, allegedly wrong with them?
Well, what happened is, when I printed them scale to fit. Okay, if you scale to fit, you change the way the font size, which is against in your handbook. You can't do that. So then I turned around and I printed them exactly as they were. Part of the header was cut off, but that was not in our election handbook. It says nothing about the header, and in fact, when they referenced the header, they used different information on the header. You know, general election. Well, it didn't have anything to do with the general election. So when I printed them, I didn't think anything about it. What was important, as I was told by an attorney, was that the paragraph was intact, which it was. Who I was, where I lived, what party I was. So that first paragraph was totally intact. Just the header was trimmed off. Not off, but half of it was there.
As I printed material all the time, it's like, okay, half is there.
Exactly.
So, was this for a general election or for the primary?
For the primary.
Sure.
Yes.
So the header was cut off a little bit.
Trimmed
It said
off, yeah.
primary. Okay.
Yes.
So they
yes.
said this isn't valid because, but you said you printed it as is. So
that's right. Because I didn't want to change the size of the font, because that is in the election handbook.
So you won because the Supreme Court said?
Supreme Court said it didn't have anything to do with it because the full paragraph was intact. And the other thing is all those signatures, I got more signatures than any of my competitors. All those signatures represented the people. And they could tell what I was running for on that first paragraph. So that's why they ruled in my favor. What I was trying to go after them for was a violation of our First Amendment, the right to petition the government. They kind of sidestepped that and said, no, let's put her back on the ballot. Of course, it was too late, but let's put her back on the ballot. Everything's fine.
What did you want to come out as petitioning your government? What did you want the Supreme Court to say?
I wanted them to say that it was a violation of our First Amendment rights, a violation of our right to petition the government. They were a little soft on that, but they did say that it was wrong for her to take me off of the...
What else could they have said, though? I mean, that's petitioning, and you got...
That's right.
But no, what else did you want the result to be?
Well, that was what I want. I wanted to win, of course, but I wanted that specific wording that she violated our First Amendment rights. That would have been too harsh on our Secretary of State, I suppose. But I won, and I created case law. So that was the important part. But the thing is we have to stand up for what's right. We cannot just let somebody else do it, and we cannot just say, oh, it'll take care of itself, because it doesn't. And in doing this, all I was doing was standing up for what was right. I was standing up for our First Amendment rights. If all of us stand up for what is right, then we don't need to have the election integrity to this intensity, but we do right now because we haven't been standing up for what is right. We have been slacking. I've heard some people say, my vote doesn't count anyway, I'm not going to vote. And that breaks my heart, because your vote does count. It's just that sometimes there have been some characters that have tried to manipulate it. Well, instead of just saying, let's not vote, let's stand up and make sure our vote's right, and make sure our vote is counted.
Those events, again, the workshops, October 4th in Santa Fe, no, that's Albuquerque, Santa Fe, October 5th, Las Cruces, October 6th, Rio Rancho, October 15th. If they miss any of these, of course the election is November 8th, is there any other opportunity to get the training if they miss these workshops?
Email me and I'll create one if I have enough people, you bet.
Okay.
It's just important to be trained and get people out there to observe their rights.
If we don't go to the training, what do you suggest? What can we do? If we don't go to the training, but we go election day and see something, call the local media, take photos, what?
Sure, any of that would work. However, you do have poll challengers there, you have a poll judge, you have poll workers, but just say something.
Oh, people in line can say something to the poll. The poll challenger and the watcher doesn't have to see. I could be telling them.
I suggest if you see something wrong, say something, because it's your right. Well, the people that are there. Because you have people there, and if you talk to them, because they're not necessarily going to have a thing that says, I'm the judge, but say, I saw something wrong, I'd like to talk to somebody about it or notify somebody about it. Pass the word on.
And just in the minute we have left, what types of things will they be learning in the workshop, or what can you share with us in the last minute that we should know about these elections that we don't?
That it counts. I want you to know that your vote counts. I want you to know that the best opportunity for your vote is to vote in person as soon as you possibly can. Day 1's great. October 11th is great. I will be voting early, as I always have. I think that that's the most valuable.
What kinds of laws? You said local laws, state laws that they'll be
Yes.
learning about. What kind of, give me an example, Anise?
Well, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to represent that.
Sure.
But what they do train is what you can legally do, what you can legally say, how you report things, because there's actually a form that would be filled out by the challenger or the judge of what we need to fill out and how to fill that out and how to take care of that. So that's all part of that class, as well as the U.S. Post Office. What can we do about them, too? Because they receive the most ballots of any other polling place. Just imagine how many ballots they receive. And of course, we have a large couple of military bases here. We have family members that are overseas from time to time. So we have the UCAVA, it's an act. And what that was created for is for our military overseas. However, recently, 95% of the people weren't military overseas. They were just overseas. So let's clean all that up too.
Very good. And you have Anise Golden Morper's email if you have additional questions.
Yes.
We ran through a lot of things in a short time,
Yes.
but thank you for all that you're doing for our community, Anise.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody else. Vote early. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the show. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, it helped me pay for my house. Being part-time really helped because I could have some opportunities that were still in education.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.